Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. We're going to take a look and see what happened with Bitcoin for today. So let's take a look at our daily time frame. Daily time frame is basically looking bullish. However, we did get rejected off of the 65,705 level that I've been having on my chart here. I am going to remove it because that's no longer a place of interest for us. But you can see how 65,186 is still of interest. We were using it quite a bit as resistance. But we did wake up to that 65,705 level, which is quite interesting. So, we did exactly what I pictured, right? We took out this double top, but we found some resistance and we came back down. Now, the question is now is whether or not we consolidate here, because we still are above 65,000, or if we're going to start getting a sharp rejection now, right? And are we going to start, moving to the downside? That's the question. So, that's going to tie into again into time, where we are in liquidity, kind of what we look at from a meso time frame perspective as well as the micro. Let's dive in deeper and take a look and see what we can find out here. So your 8 hour time frame is definitely, in my opinion, looking bullish. You have your 21 MA coming up, curving upward. You have your 50 curving upward as well. You have your 200 MA coming down. If we were truly, fully bearish, I would say that, I would have liked to see price reject off of this 66,482 level, but we didn't, right? We went up to that 65 7-ish area, like we've been talking about, and we got rejected off of there. So what's going to be interesting is, what we do for the remainder of the week. I know we have, I believe, one Fed event on Thursday, which is the unemployment claims, but otherwise we don't have anything, which can lead to higher volatility since there's less people in the market, not only because of the non-existent Fed events, but also because we're in a summer season, right? A lot of people taking vacations, taking time off, that sort of thing. So taking a look at the 4 hour, the 4 hour still looks very bullish to me. 6 hour still looks very bullish. If we really were changing sentiment to a bearish sentiment on some of these meso time frames, you would have wanted to see a very sharp rejection to where we came all the way down here, maybe tested closer to 200 MA, not really showing a lot of strength just yet. There's always a possibility that we get a rollover, but for right now, we have to assume that the trend is still up until proven otherwise. Okay. So, yes, it's not the best sign that we're back below 65,186. However, we're still consolidating. I mean, this is still just dropped about $600 from its high today. So it's not a huge drop, in my opinion. We're not talking thousands of dollars. We're just talking literally $600 from where it was. I do expect price consolidation here if we're going to stay bullish. So this actually is the bullish move if we're going to stay bullish, is watching price consolidate, right, on the 4 hour and the 6 hour. Going into the hourly, you're kind of forming some sort of bullish flaggish pattern. I don't know if it's more obvious on the 1 hour, but you're doing exactly what you want to see. I mean, this could be a descending triangle, yes, but price is waiting for the 21 to come into play. Same with the 4 hour. You're starting to get the 4 hour 21 MA starting to come up towards price. So it's all things setting up for more of a bullish continuation, in my opinion. Your 1 hour, yeah, I mean, it does show kind of a symmetrical triangle type of shape here, in my opinion. Not that I don't trade patterns that often, but you kind of have this flag here that you're in, and you're waiting for the 21 to come up into price action. A 15-minute kind of showing the same thing, and you could even further adjust it to something like this. But it's really going to depend, guys, on whether or not. I would say at this point, your biggest test is whether or not you're going to keep these weekly opens. Your blue line being your Monday midnight weekly open, and then your orange line being your actual weekly open that occurred on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's going to be a huge indication whether or not we get the move to the upside. So let's take a look and see what we'll be looking at here. So, and actually, you know what? This is really a lot more symmetrical. You could even draw it more like this. I don't know what I was doing, but this is more so kind of what we're in. And then you're taking that full move and you're either moving that to the upside or the downside. So let's take a look and see where that lands us here. So To the upside, it's about 66,314. And then to the downside, you're looking at about 64,357, it looks like. So I definitely see price kind of consolidating within this flag. Um, because we took out this really high liquidity point up here, there is a possibility that we will reverse. Okay, I don't want to leave that off the table. Another thing that makes me really cautious is because this is Monday. If we were to get this strong move up on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I would say, okay, let's keep looking for bullish momentum. But because we did this on a Monday, it does give me a little bit of pause, I have to say. Um, there's a potential that this does roll over and we get down here into the 64-ish range. And I believe this might even actually be a 786. Let's take a look. I mean, that's almost a perfect 786 right there to 64,410. So just keep that in mind, guys. I mean, this is kind of, where you want to wait and see what price action has to do. Again, as always, not financial advice, but right now, as it stands, I'm currently only trading in the mornings. I'm just letting the evenings be alone. I'm letting the weekends be alone. I don't fully, unless I absolutely see a necessary setup that I know is going to probability wise play out. I'm just avoiding those time frames at all costs. I did have one like demo trade open this weekend just for the heck of it, and I did win it by just a few $100. But I'm not usually trading with real money when it comes to these off times. I will say, um, this this to me, does look like a rounded top. There's a decent chance it's going to pull back down because we're against resistance right now. Um, I'm kind of getting mixed signals with this. Yeah, same with the 5 minute rounded top, right? So just be cautious, guys. But one thing I will say that is not the best sign is if we do lose, I would say, this midnight Monday open and we lose this weekly open, more importantly at 64.7 at this point, you have to assume that we're going to go lower for the week. I will say that. There's a decent chance that we made our high today, basically based off of the week. Your weekly open was here. So there's a decent chance that this does reverse, unfortunately. Okay. Now, that being said, let's take a look and see kind of what that would spell out on some of the bigger time frames. So you can get a 786 retracement from here, maybe get a bounce up. But to be honest with you, I would probably say that we'd have to, I even would probably go further. Um, I would probably say that we'd have to target maybe from this impulse to up here. And then you're looking at about 60,881. So the top of this order block. And I think we've been targeting that for a while. So if we were to get a bearish candle this week, this is where I'm targeting. Getting that full blown kind of, rounded, bigger rounded top, bigger head and shoulders pattern to the downside, and then maybe getting some sort of, support off of this order block and being able to bounce up. But just be aware that because, we've got a decent move up for Monday and obviously the overall market sentiment, because we had a decent move up today, is bullish. So whenever there's a bigger sentiment that people are trading, the market makers usually like to flip it on you, right? So there is a chance that this rolls over and goes into the 60,880 range. Ideally, I would love to see this drive up and go test 66,482, maybe get rejected off of that. But you just have to have an open mind at this point that, that could potentially happen. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity. I'm going to be really interested in the 4 hour particularly, but take a look and see where we're at with liquidity for today. So, as I mentioned to you guys earlier in the Sin City crypto group, we are getting that rejection, or we did get that rejection off of this red, liquidity pool, which is our big liquidity pool here. Whether or not we come up and railroad it is a bigger question, but it's not the best sign that this did get rejected off of here. Now, the nerve-wracking aspect to that is it could set up a roadway for us to get down back into here, which is that 60,700 area, 60,800 area that we targeted on Trading View. But it's just, to me, I just don't like to see pumps on Mondays. That just kind of bugs me out. Um, Now, the only thing that would excuse that behavior is because we have that golden cross, or we got that golden cross on the 6 hour and the 4 hour. But again, it's not something that, I want to see when it comes to a timing perspective type of thing. Now, taking a look at our 1 hour chart here, you can see that this is telling us we actually did take out the red liquidity. And usually when you do that, it sets it up for a reversal to come back down. Now, how far is the question, but there is a little red line down here at 61.1 that we got to be concerned about. Um, so just kind of keep that in mind, guys. I mean, I'm going to still focus on trading the morning time frames because that's usually when I get my perfect setup, or my, it basically gives me more of a probabilistic, timing wise setup in New York Open. But do what you want with that information. um Again, your 15-minute, checking off the 50x and 100x pools, you're kind of seeing the same thing, right? You have this little red line of liquidity around 61K even. You do have some orders down here as well. So you have some orders to the upside about 65.7. Can be used as resistance though, just be aware of that. There's not a lot of orders around price action right now other than to the upside. So it is alluding to the fact that we might go up, but just be cautious is what all I'm trying to say here. Especially we're going to be getting into Asia session, and usually they're known to dump us, right? So there's a decent chance that we may get a sell-off into this area. Just be aware, okay? Into the 63, 62-ish area even, on the bigger time frames. So for right now, honestly, I would probably have to say I would target taking out this double bottom right here. So maybe about 63.5, possibly getting some sort of bounce there, some sort of relief if we were to drop. But again, nothing is guaranteed in this market, right? If I were to increase the sensitivity here on the 5 minute, yeah, I mean, this is not really showing me anything substantial. I mean, this tells me we could get to 64.7. I'm targeting lower though, if we were to get that strong move down. So, like I said, guys, just be careful. I mean, there is a potential that we reverse, we move back up, but um, from my read currently, the probability, especially from a timing perspective, is to the downside for at least for right now. How far down we go is a bigger question, but I do see more of a probability to the downside for right now. Let's take a look at our simple map real quick. So when it comes to the simple map, you do have some liquidity to the upside, just not enough of a bridge, in my opinion, to really move up. Once you get to about 66, 65.7, you do have quite a bit of liquidity you could take out. Obviously to the downside, you do have more bridges, 100x, 50x, even some 25x to kind of get you into that 63.6 area. So again, targeting that 63.5, um, that's more probabilistic in my opinion, on a smaller time frame basis, is moving to the downside. However, it's really going to be one of those things where you have to let the market show its hand. Right now, it's not really showing anything, it's just consolidating. Again, on our swing time frames, kind of showing that same concept, right? Not a lot of liquidity to the upside, not a lot of shorts that we could wreck to get our way, up to some of this bigger liquidity just yet. But as long as we could maybe hopefully stay above that 63.5 area, maybe get just a small retracement down to there and get a nice move up, hopefully we can start taking some of this out. So levels to watch for tonight, I would say 63.5 to the downside. To the upside, it would have to be your next area of resistance. So I would have to say that that would be 66.482 if you were to get that move up. But that's basically kind of the range I'm seeing. It's going to either be between 63.5, somewhere in here, or up to 66.482, which is unfortunately a wide range, but we do want to see price action go one way or the other to really make that determination. Anyways, guys, that is what I have for you for today. As usual, if you guys want to use Trading Different and its tools, feel free to use my code Sean to get 10% off of your entire order, to help you identify bias and to help you with trading liquidity and really identify where price is going. So tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean to redeem your 10% off code. That being said, guys, that is what I have for you for right now. I will be back tomorrow morning to give you guys another update. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.